Alright, we're doing geometric sequences. Here is a geometric sequence: 5, -10, 20, -40, 80. First term, still, this a sub 1 is still considered the first term. That's how we denote the first term. The difference between the geometric sequence and the arithmetic sequence: in an arithmetic sequence, you're adding to get to the next number. You're adding the same thing. That's called the common difference. In a geometric sequence, you have a common ratio, or also called common factor, and a factor is usually multiplication. So in a geometric sequence, you are multiplying the same number each time. So here, I am multiplying a -2 every time. -2 times 5 is a -10. -10 times -2, +20. 20 times -2, -40. -40 times -2, +80. When watch your signs. When you're multiplying a negative, then your signs will alternate each time. So here, the common ratio in this sequence is r equals -2, r for ratio. Ratio, just fancy word for fraction. The way that you can find the common ratio is take the second term and divide it by the first term. So take a sub 2 divided by a sub 1. -10 divided by 5 is -2. That's how you can determine the common ratio. Okay, looking at 27C2, we're finding the first 5 terms of the geometric sequence. My first term, they give it to us, a sub 1 is -8. Then my common ratio is -1/4. So to go from the first term to the second term, I'm multiplying -1/4 every time. So I'm going to go ahead and write it out. -8, I can turn that into a fraction since this is a fraction. Well, a negative times a negative is going to be a positive, so I know my next number is positive. And then multiplying that by 1/4, your 8 and your 4 cancel, and you end up with a +2. So my next number would be a +2. Then I take 2, multiplying it by -1/4. Positive times a negative is a negative, so I know I'm going to have a negative number. Then that would be -2/4. Always reduce your fractions. So -2/4 reduces to -1/2. Now take your -1/2, multiplying it by -1/4. So negative times negative is a positive, so it's going to be a positive number. 1/2 times 1/4. Multiplying straight across when you multiply fractions, so that would be 1/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 4 terms. Now take your 1/8 times your -1/4. It's going to be a negative number. Multiplying your denominator, -1/32. So that would be the first 5 numbers. Going down to 27D2. Finding the first 5 terms of your geometric sequence. My first term is, I'm starting with A, and then my common ratio is 3B. I'm multiplying 3B every time. So 3B times A would be 3AB. Multiplying again. So I'll just write it out here, 3AB times B, 3B times 3B. Multiplying your numbers, 9AB squared. Nothing to multiply the A to, and B times B, B squared. Numbers to numbers, letters to letters. Now take your 9AB squared, and multiplying by 3B. You can rearrange everything to where you're multiplying your numbers together. 9 times 3 is 27. Nothing, no A's to multiply together. B squared times B, B cubed. So it would be 27AB cubed. Multiplying this by 3B, 27AB cubed times 3B. 3 times 27, 81. Nothing to multiply the A's. B cubed times B, B to the 4th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is your first 5 terms of that geometric sequence. Now we're finding a specific term of a geometric sequence. Instead of writing out the whole sequence and knowing, like the 20th number down the line, we can find a specific term with this formula. So this is a specific term. The N will represent which term you're trying to find. So This formula is you take the first term, a sub 1, times r to the n minus 1. The n minus 1 is in the exponent. Again, r is your common ratio or your common factor. N is the term that you're trying to find. So looking at 27D6, find the 20th term where we're given a sub 1 is 16 and the common ratio is negative 1/2. So using the formula, we are finding the 20th term, and a sub 1 times the common ratio to the n minus 1. So a sub 1, the first term is 16, they've told us, times, so I'm just going to put that in parentheses so I know it's multiplication, r negative 1/2 raised to the n minus 1. N was 20, the 20th term minus 1. So 16 times negative 1/2 to the 19th. So a negative raised to the 19th to an odd number is going to be a negative number. So then we're going to have 16th to the negative. 1 to the 19th is still 1. And then 2 to the 19th. 524,288. That's your denominator. And I'm pretty sure 16 in that cancels. It does. So that becomes 1. This reduces by 16 to become 32,768. So the 20th term is going to be negative, don't lose that negative sign, negative 1 over 32,768. Whenever you have a fraction raised to a power, you can do the numerator to that exponent and the denominator to that exponent, because literally that's like negative 1/2 times negative 1/2, all the way 19 times. Okay, looking at 27C, number 7, find the 8th term, and you'll be given the first term, 9/4, and the second term of negative 3/2. So our formula for a specific term is your first term times your common ratio raised to the n minus 1 power. So we need the first term, which we've been given that, and we need the common ratio. Well, to find the common ratio, r is the second term divided by the first term. My second term is negative 3/2 divided by the first term, 9/4. Fraction divided by fraction, flip the second and multiply. So that would be times 4/9. So we're going to end up with a negative number, because a negative times a positive is a negative. That reduces to 1 and 3. That goes to 1 and that goes to 2. So our common ratio should be negative 2/3. Okay, now that we know that, we can find the 8th term. We want the 8th term, so take the first term, which was 9/4, times our common ratio, which was negative 2/3, raised to the n minus 1. N is 8 minus 1. So 9/4 times negative 2/3 raised to the 7th power. Since that's negative, raised to an odd number, it will be a negative. So 9/4 negative 2 to the 7th is 128. So anytime you have a fraction raised to the power, you can raise the numerator to that power and the denominator to that power. And then 3 to the 7th is 2,187. I know 4 and 128 will reduce. Okay, so that becomes 1, that becomes 32. And I'm going to see if 9 will divide into that. And it does. that becomes a 1, that becomes 243. So your 8th term is negative 32 over 243, and that doesn't reduce anymore.